So Joe Biden ended up releasing an ad that is pretty fucked up in terms of what it's using to be able to try and support his policy ideas. So it's not only going against Republicans who want to repeal Obamacare, but it's also going against Medicare for all. So here is that ad, and then I'll be back to explain more.
I was sworn into the United States Senate next to a hospital bed. My wife and daughter had been killed in a car crash. And lying in that bed were my two surviving little boys. I couldn't imagine what it would have been like if we didn't have the health care they needed immediately. 40 years later, one of those little boys, my son Bo, was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given only months to live. I can't fathom what would have happened if the insurance companies had said for the last 6 months of his life, you're on your own. The fact of the matter is, healthcare is personal to me. Obamacare is personal to me. When I see the president try to tear it down and others propose to replace it and start over, that's personal to me too. We got to build on what we did because every American deserves affordable healthcare. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
So that ad was hard to watch for multiple different reasons. Because to start off, you have this situation now where he's using his son's death, a very, very dark situation, a very deep situation, to further his goal of arguing against his Democratic rivals that have proposed a Medicare for all system, saying that that would be an insult to his dead son, basically, if they were to do that. And it's personal to him because of the struggles that he's been through with his son and the healthcare system. And the fact, like, if he was just trying to go after Republicans and used that kind of ad, it at least would make sense. It would at least be like, hey, Republicans offering to repeal Obamacare are going to kick millions of people off of their insurance. And some of those people and those millions of people that would be kicked off of their insurance could experience situations like what happened to me and my family. And I don't want them to have to go through that without any insurance and without being able to have access to health care. And the Republicans would be taking that access away from them. So that at least would make sense, and that would connect on a personal level where people would understand that they don't want those people to go through that situation that could be created by the Republicans repealing Obamacare. So that at least would make sense. But to go after people supporting Medicare for all and saying that we're basically trying to get rid of Obamacare and just start completely over on healthcare again, and that we're basically just getting rid of all of the progress that Joe Biden fought for in the memory of his dead son, is just completely untrue. We're trying to further those goals that supposedly Barack Obama and Joe Biden were setting out to do, which is to make sure that every American has access to healthcare and that healthcare is then a right. And Joe Biden and Barack Obama have always talked about how they want to get to universal coverage, and this is their best step at doing so. So now, if you talk about Medicare for all and that gets it to universal coverage, then why would that be an insult to what you've worked for? We're literally taking what you say at the end of the commercial, building off of what you've already done, and we're building on that to a much higher level. We would then take basically the next step, which is a public option over a 4-year phase-in period to Medicare for all from the system that we have now to Medicare for all. There's not going to be a period where we just repeal Obamacare and don't replace it with anything. And then we just have this void where millions of people are then kicked off of their health insurance and waiting for some kind of 4-year to 10-year plan of Medicare for all to get established. It's not what happens. It's a transition period to make sure that the people that already have healthcare continue to have healthcare, and that we continuously expand upon that to then make it where everyone has healthcare after 4 years. Some people have offered a 10-year phase-in. 4-year phase-in is much better in terms of it's not unrealistic to do a 4-year phase-in, and it's something that is an urgent matter for thousands and honestly millions of Americans across the country. So it's a very serious issue, and people that are uninsured right now, there would be millions uninsured under Joe Biden's plan that would be building off of Obamacare. So Joe Biden, indirectly with his policy proposal and what he's talking about in this commercial, is he basically is saying, well, listen, I have a plan to build off of what I did, and this is so personal to me, but that plan is still going to leave millions of people in a situation that I was just talking about would be an absolute nightmare for me and my son to have gone through. So it's a very bizarre dynamic that Joe Biden is bringing to the table. Now, he doesn't talk about how many people would still be uninsured under Joe Biden's plan, under his own plan, but he's basically saying we need to build on this, and he has the way to build on it. And still, that would leave a vast amount of people, uninsured. So now you're leaving people in a situation that you are literally creating sympathy for yourself and for your family for. Like, so you're trying to create all this sympathy for this situation. And then you basically say, well, yeah, under my plan, building on this Obamacare, there would still be millions of people who could actually have to face that situation that I was just talking about. Like, it's just so ignorant to what is the political climate right now around the country. People want universal coverage. People want a single payer system. People want Medicare for all. People don't want thousands or millions of people being uninsured and underinsured. They want everybody to have access to quality healthcare, and to have healthcare as a right, not as some kind of commodity good. So it's just tone deaf on so many different levels, and it's fucked up that he uses his son's death to try and go against the people that are supporters of Medicare for All system, because the supporters of the Medicare for All system, one of the biggest reasons that they're in support of that system is because they don't want that type of situation that Joe Biden just talked about in his ad to ever happen to anybody, where they're left out in the cold when they have terminal cancer by their insurance company, or they didn't have insurance to begin with, and now they have terminal cancer and they just can't afford the care. We have 500,000 medical bankruptcies in the United States each year. So what is going to be the situation where you can get rid of them completely? There is a solution to get rid of them 100%. All 500,000 of them. And that would be Medicare for all. But because it's personal to Joe Biden, just throw all of the statistics out the window. It doesn't matter how much more efficient Medicare for all is. It doesn't matter that it saves money over a 10-year period. It doesn't matter that it eliminates a vast majority of the overhead costs that are associated with it. It doesn't matter that it gets rid of this greedy for-profit middleman in the health insurance companies. It doesn't matter that it provides every single American with quality health care. It doesn't matter that it would save over 500,000 people from having to be in a situation where they're going bankrupt due to medical bills. And that's why we support a system like that. And for you to say, well, the counter argument to that from my campaign is that I had a really tough health situation in terms of my son who passed away, so it's personal to me. So that outweighs all of the facts that back up your plan. And because that's personal to me, and I view that as starting over, even though that's not even remotely true, now I'm in the correct position, and you're wrong for wanting to do this. And it's just absurd. It's genuinely absurd. The fact that the entire counter argument to this is that I had something bad happen to somebody I deeply care about. So it's personal to me. So that my argument wins. But that's not how these things work. That's not how policy gets decided. Policy doesn't get decided just because it's personal to you. Policy should be decided upon because it makes sense, and because it's the right thing to do, and because the facts back it up, and because it accomplishes the goals that the American people need it to accomplish. It's not a thing where just because, it's personal to you, And I'm so sorry that that happened to Joe Biden. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I wish Joe Biden never had to go through that. I wish his son Bo never had to go through that. It's an absolute tragedy that happened. But for then Joe Biden to then come in and say, well, because that happened, now you should go with my plan that still leaves millions of people uninsured. But you're indirectly saying that you're leaving the door open to millions of people having to deal with the possibility that they could end up going through a similar situation to what you're talking about. And it's just so dumb on his face, and it's so dirty to use his son's death in that kind of way. Like, why would you use it in such a flippant and disingenuous way to go against Medicare for All, a system that would provide healthcare to everybody to make sure that they don't have to deal with situations where they're being left out in the cold when they have terminal cancer or just cancer, period. And it's just, and he's using it as a prop. He's using his son's death as a prop, and I think that's a disgusting thing to do. And like I said, I wish that never happened to Joe Biden. I wish it never happened to his son, and I wish it never happened to his family. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But the fact that he's using that in such a disingenuous way to try and just say, well, this bad thing happened to me, so you have to support what I want because it's personal, compared to everybody else that's supporting Medicare for All, saying, don't let this kind of situation happen to anybody. And we have all the facts to back up why this is the best system. Joe Biden doesn't have the facts. All he has that is personal. And that shows that he doesn't have the actual substance to fight back against the Medicare for All supporters in this Democratic primary. He just has personal anecdotes. No matter how touching and no matter how heartbreaking they are, they're still anecdotes. And that doesn't defeat all of the facts that are in favor of the Medicare for All system. And that's just the bottom line. And Joe Biden should be better than using something that's so tragic to try and score political points against a system that would make sure that people don't have to deal with a situation where their loved ones have cancer and are left out in the cold, or have any disease and are left out in the cold.